Get ready for news and views from Lubbock, Texas, USA. What's going on and real talk with people who move and do things. This is the Focus LBK Show with your host, Robert Jenkins.
Hey, what's good, LBK? This is Robert Jenkins coming to you with Season 3, Episode 134 of the Focus LBK Show. Today, I wanted to talk about, if you didn't know today's date, I hope I'm not surprising you with this because it could be catastrophic if you didn't realize it. But today is tax day. It's April 15th. As I record this, it's going to come out on April 16th. So I hope you didn't miss filing your taxes. I wanted to talk about taxes, though, from a very interesting perspective that some of y'all might not be familiar with. And that perspective is from the libertarian perspective. Now, before I get too deep into it, I think I should define what libertarianism is. I consider myself to be a libertarian, a conservative libertarian. There's kind of different flavors and stripes, I guess, but what libertarianism is can be summed up, I think, in a couple of points. First of all, it is the most important principle that libertarians follow is the non-aggression principle. The non-aggression principle, I call it the NAP because I always say I'm nappy and happy. Y'all know what I mean. The NAP, or the non-aggression principle, states basically that nobody may use force against other people. You cannot use aggression or force or coercion against other people when it comes to economics or finance, or when it comes to political power, political rights, your money, all that kind of stuff. Force has no place in those dealings. You might call it voluntarism. Meaning that everything that you do, every business arrangement you enter into, every contract you enter into, every friendship you make, every time you come into contact with other people, you have to voluntarily do so. Aggression or force has no place in those interactions. Another important point about libertarianism is that just as you can't use force or fraud or coercion, property rights is another big point of it. The things that you make. Well, let's keep it real simple. The first private property that all of us own is ourselves. You own yourself. Nobody else owns you. We believe that we are created by God as individual sovereign people. As such, nobody has the right to force you to give them money. Nobody has the right to force you to work for them. Nobody has the right to force you to sign a contract to get this for that you really don't want to do. Force cannot be involved when it comes to ownership of something, because when you own something, you have the final and ultimate say-so over how it gets used. Now, since you own your body first and foremost, you say that, the body is the first form of private property. Everything that you produce by mixing the labor of your hands or of your mind with things in the physical world, everything that you produce, whether it's a picture or an automobile or a wood carving or a meal, anything that you use your body and mind and spirit and soul to produce, you own that too. Ownership rights are absolute. Private property rights are absolute. The prohibition against using force are absolute. Now, here's the important thing to notice about libertarianism. I'm pretty sure most of y'all listening to what I just said will probably agree that sounds like a really good principle. Everything, or a set of really good principles. So that everything that I just said, it's kind of hard to disagree with. Do you own your body? Yes, you do. Absolutely, you own your body. Absolutely, you own your private property. Your body and everything else that flows out of that is yours, that you have legally entered into contracts with people voluntarily over, becomes yours. That's your property. Everybody agrees with that, except when it comes to certain types of shots. I think most people agree to it. That's a whole other discussion. But as a libertarian, I hold that it's absolutely impossible to force somebody, and immoral to be able to force somebody to take a shot they don't want to take, or to get a medical procedure they don't want to get, of any sort. You own yourself. You're not a slave. You're not a cow. You're not cattle. See, when you own cattle, you make the decision about what kind of shots and medical treatment those animals get. Or when you own pets, okay, fine, but we're human beings. We're created in God's likeness. We're not pets or cattle or anything like that. We own ourselves. Private property, non-aggression. And the other thing that I love about libertarianism, and this is where you might lose some people, you don't have the right to use force. You can't steal. You can't do any of that stuff that we just discussed. So here's the key. If I or you as individuals don't have the right to do it to another individual, then guess what? It is impossible for a number of individuals to get together and claim to have the right that one individual doesn't have. So let's put that in real talk. The government should not have the right to force you to do things. You should own yourself. It doesn't matter if, so in other words, check it out. Here's the common scenario. The common libertarian scenario. If I go up to you and say, hey man, give me $50. And you say, no, thanks. That's the end of that story, right? That's all we can write on that. Well, we can say, okay, he said no. Well, if I go up to you and say, hey man, give me $50 and you say no, and I pull out a gun, what is that? That's robbery, right? That's theft. Well, here's the thing about libertarianism that I like. They are consistent. If one person comes up to you and uses force or fraud or trickery or deceit to take your money, you would call that theft. Libertarians agree with that. Everybody agrees with that. Libertarians go one step further and say, guess what? If the government comes up to you and uses force, fraud, or theft or coercion to take something from you, that also is theft if you don't consent. In fact, there's a meme that I was looking at earlier today. I'll put it down here in the show notes. But that meme is very instructive. It's talking all about the key to any interaction that you have with people is whether you consent or not. If you consent, well, you've heard that phrase, between two consenting adults. Well, of course, if two consenting adults agree to do something, they voluntarily wish to do it. I wish to do A and you wish to do B, and we put those together and we both find it to be mutually beneficial, then that's called freedom, that you're able to do whatever you want to do. And that goes for things that are not very savory too. Prostitution. Some people say they want to sell their bodies, and other people say, hey, I want to buy your body. I guess rent your body is more like it. Well, as long as there's consent, I don't understand how that could be illegal. Now, it might be distasteful. It might be disruptive if you don't do it in an orderly fashion. You don't want women standing out, what they used to call them, women of the night, ladies of the evening, pros. You don't want that kind of thing going on, especially in your neighborhood around your kids. I get it. But as long as it's two consenting adults, it's kind of hard to say that something should be illegal. Consent. So this meme that I was talking about, it says, what makes sex not rape? Consent is the thing that makes sex not rape. Two consenting adults can consent to do it. What makes a job not slavery? Consent. If you consent to do a job in return for X, Y, and Z, that's not slavery. If someone is making you work and taking your money, taking the fruit of your labor against your will, guess what that's called? Slavery. And that's what we're talking about tax day. We're going to tie it all together. We're talking about tax day, right? Let me go down this meme. It say, what makes a transaction not robbery? Consent. The last one, what makes taxes not theft, or what makes taxation not theft? Magical fairy dust. That's about the only thing that makes taxation not theft, because who in here condones to them taking money out of your check? I don't condone it. I never signed anything anywhere that I'm aware of that said, yes, take whatever you want out of my check. And then got the gall to tell you that that's not enough. You didn't pay us enough. Well, if you know how much I owe you, why you didn't tell me? Why don't you just tell me and we can make this a lot simpler? Why I got to fill out forms and pay somebody and get TurboTax and all that? The government should know how much you owe them. Why don't they send you a bill? I tell you why they don't send you a bill. For one thing, nobody asked for their services most of the time. I didn't ask for this war in Iran. I don't want that. I don't want money going to Planned Parenthood, for example. I don't want that. I don't consent to those things. So how then are my taxes being used for it? That's called theft. You're stealing money from me. You're taking money from me that I did not consent for you to have. See, this is libertarianism, and it's the reason I like it. May sound like it's going too far to some of y'all, but I like it because it's intellectually consistent. It sets out a principle and it reasons to the next step and the next step, from that principle to the next principle to the next principle. And they all are logically consistent and coherent. Taxation is theft. Have you ever seen those videos where the kid gets their first check. It's a couple of YouTube videos, or I don't know, them them videos, them weaponized videos where you be scrolling and you can't stop and you look up and it be 4 hours later. I'm looking at some of those and it's like the so-and-so, little Johnny just got his first check and he didn't already figured out in his head. Let's see, I make $7 an hour and I worked 8 hours. That's $56. And then you get that first check and it be 42. And Johnny's face says all that you need to know. Johnny's face is like, what the? You can tell they want to cuss. They be in the car with their parents, though. The one I'm thinking of is the guy sitting in the front seat with his parents. He almost about to cry. He looked at his check. He's supposed to be getting $150 or whatever. Actually, he got $102.95. He was like, what the? The top lip start trembling. You can tell he finna cry. He want to cry. When that camera go off, he gonna cry. He gonna cry because somebody just stole from him. You know how you know somebody stole from him? Because that's his reaction. He didn't consent to that. Kids, say out of the mouth of babes, kids' faces and sometimes they mouths tell you everything you need to know. When that first check hit and you ain't get what you thought you was supposed to get, because you didn't know they was gonna take taxes out your. You know why you didn't know? Because you didn't consent. And just because you have gotten used to the pain of having money stolen from you after decades like myself in the workforce, it don't mean it's still not theft. Nobody can show me what I signed. And it's probably that first stuff when you get your first job, all that stuff you feel. But I don't remember nothing in that. I think it's even before. I think it's just assumed. The government gets to get your money before you get it and take their chunk out of it and then give you what they think you need after that. Anywhere else, that would be called theft. If I came up to you and said, hey, I see you just got your check. You made $500 this week. I'm going to need 120 out of that. So you could take home 380. You'd be like, you crazy. No. I say, man, I guard your store at night. What that's starting to sound like. Hey, you got a nice store here. It'd be a shame if anything happened to it. You better give us $120. That's starting to sound like the mob, ain't it? That's funny how you could put taxes and the mob and all that stuff right in the same bucket real quick just by following dots. Because when people take stuff from you that you did not consent to have taken, you are being stolen from. And it doesn't matter. See, here's the key about libertarianism again. In libertarianism, we believe that just because you vote for something, you don't have the right to steal from me. I don't have the right to steal from you. So since I don't have that right, I can't delegate it to some other people to do it. I can't vote and say, well, what? So if I come up to you and say, hey, I see you got your check this week. It was $500. You owe us $120. That makes you have $380. And you say, no, I don't know. I'm not going to do that. What if I say, well, me and Tyrone voted on it and we voted that you owe us $120. But you don't have the right to take my money by force anyway. I don't consent to that. So you can get and you can call Tyrone, as Erykah Badu would say. You can call Tyrone all you want. You can call Tyrone, all his cousins, his mama, daddy, and them, your parents, and all your brothers and sisters. Y'all can 50 of you can get together and vote. And you still don't get the right to take my money. And that applies to the government. If one individual can't do something, then no matter how many individuals vote on it, they still don't have the authority to do it either. Now, of course, they do it, because we scared and we consent to it. It's going to cost you an arm and a leg to not consent. It's not consent when there's force involved, but it's going to cost you an arm and a leg not to comply. So you just say, they can have it. But here's the thing, though. Again, it's going back to consent. I don't consent to any of the stuff that I see on TV that's going on, and yet they're using my tax money for it. I don't get any say. How is it that in the year 2026, when you can go online and do just about everything in the world, you can't go online to like the federal government's website and log into your account with your social security number and tell them, hey, you can use my tax money for ambulances, border defense, X, Y, and Z. Don't use my tax money for abortion. Don't use my tax money for any kind of transgender surgery. Don't use my tax money for any kind of foreign wars. Don't use my tax money to teach people overseas about this, that, and the other. I don't care about people overseas. They have their own governments. Let their governments take care of them. Matter of fact, let them take care of themselves and let us take care of ourselves. I advocate for as little government as possible. So you see what I'm saying? How is it in 2026 that you don't have the right and the ability? We have the technological ability to do this, to go online, have an account with the federal government, just like you have right now. Everybody just paid their taxes. Y'all know it don't matter what tax preparer you went to. They have a portal. They can get in there and they can give you the website. You go on it. Your money goes directly to the federal government. How is it that on that same tax account, we don't have some check boxes? I'm good with paying for this. I'm good with paying for that. And I'm good for paying with that. Whatever y'all need out of my little taxes, you can put that over in that pot. Don't put none of my money over in this pot, or this pot. Like my pot, I don't want no data center. I don't want no abortion. I don't want no foreign entanglement type of stuff where you're getting in wars and messing with people overseas. Keep my money out of all that. See what I'm saying? How is it that we don't have the ability to do that? Well, clearly we have the technological ability to do it. We just don't have, government would never let us be that free. As you guessed from the name libertarianism, the whole point is individual liberty. You own yourself and you should be able to do everything that you want as widely as possible, as broadly as possible, as long as you're not hurting or interfering with somebody else, with your own body and the fruits of your own labor. Your money, your home, your car, your firearms, your whatever. As long as you ain't messing with nobody else or physically, tangibly, in a measurable way hurting somebody, you can't go by you hurting people's feelings. What did it say? Facts don't care about your feelings. I don't care if your feelings get hurt, but if they physically hurting you in some way, or if they're monetarily hurting you, or financially, or reputationally hurting you, that's impermissible. You can't do that, right? That's libertarianism in a nutshell. Non-aggression principle. But like I said, carried to its logical extension, you understand the libertarian axiom or libertarian belief that all taxation is theft. Because I'm just the guy that's willing to be honest about this stuff. I don't know about you guys. I know I didn't sign nothing nowhere that said, yes, do this, take a third of my check. I've had some jobs where some pretty decent paying jobs, and I've looked at the taxes they've taken out. The taxes they have taken out are equal to my check, my whole check in other jobs that I've had. You know what I'm saying? So higher paying jobs that I've had, they've taken out taxes equal to the amount of my current check, for example. How are you taking out a check from my check? I didn't sign that nowhere. And if I did, I was 16 when I first started working, and you didn't explain it to me. So that's not consent either. If you signing something when you're a minor and you don't even understand what you're signing, that ain't consent, is it? You can't give consent when you're a minor, you get your first job. You don't know. And nobody explained that to me. I'm certain of it. Because I was shocked when I got my first check too. I remember that. I used to work at Albertsons over on 4th and Loop 289. I think it's a gym or something now. There used to be an Albertsons over there. And man, I got my first check over there. Minimum wage back in those days was like, I think it was $3.50 or $3.90. I think it was $3.90 an hour. And it went up to, I was working when it went up to $4.25 and then $4.50, I think. And I remember, minimum wage. I'm finna get an automatic pay raise next week to $4.50 an hour or whatever. I was making $3.90 before that. I think it was $3.90. But I remember that first check I got, whatever I was making per hour, that check show didn't add up to what I had figured out. Because I knew exactly how many hours I worked. I worked about 25 hours. I did the math on it. I did the math just like I'm finna do it right now. I did the math. 25 hours times $3.90. I was supposed to get $97.50. And my first check was $78.90 or something. You know what I'm saying? You like, hold up. 78. I'm supposed to be getting almost $98. Where's this 78 coming from? I didn't sign no. See how I told you, man, the faces of the kids tell it all. Them little kids, you about to cry when they see them taxes come out. If you understand what I'm saying out there, shoot me a comment down here. Shoot me a thumbs up or something. On the other hand, if you totally disagree with what I'm saying, tell me exactly how it is that people taking money from you just because they have titles and got so-called voted on, they couldn't come up to you. President Trump right now couldn't come up to you and say, hey, I'm President Trump, whatever. I can't do a good Trump impersonation. Yeah, okay, I'm president. Nah, I'm not even gonna try. I ain't never practiced it, so I'm just gonna say it straight. But he couldn't come up to you and be like making his little sign and be like, "We're gonna need $120 from you, Robert." however he talked. He couldn't come. I would look at him and be like, you in what army? Wait, that might be the wrong question. He has shown that he is willing to use the army. But the point is, you get where I'm going. He can't, it don't matter who you are. You can't come up to a person and take their money. That's called theft or robbery, depending on whether you use a weapon or not. But somehow you can get together with other people and vote to do it. And guess what? It's still using force. There's still force involved. Mess around and don't pay your taxes. And then mess around and don't pay them again. They'll probably give you a couple years, but at some point you're going to jail. You don't pay your taxes, you're going to jail. And here's the thing. They gonna come take you to jail. How they gonna take, who gonna take you to jail? Mr. Rogers? No. People with guns. That's force. That's why all taxation is backed up with force and all taxation is theft. All forms of government are backed up by force, which is why you want as little as possible, because they're using force to tell grown adults what to do with the fruits of their labor and their mind and their spirit and their body and soul that they mix with the real world and produce things. Well, if you sign a contract at work to mix your body labor with these widgets right here, you make stuff at work. You actually produce something at work. Well, that's fine. You gave your consent to do that. And your employer gave his consent to give you X amount of money for it. So that's not slavery. But if you just doing it and somebody just come take it without your consent, that's slavery. So in taxation, in libertarian, we believe that all taxation is theft. So basically, I will tell you, I just got robbed because we don't get any tax money back. I haven't gotten tax money back for a decade at least or more. We don't get, probably 20 years. We don't get no money back. We always got to pay some money or just barely break even. This year I had to pay the most I've ever had to pay. Second most I've ever had to pay. And I was not happy about it, but guess what? I pay the IRS like a bill. Boy, I paid them they say if it's due on the 15th, I paid them on the 7th. Got my receipt, my transaction number, I got all that stuff. They got my money. Now, I didn't like it. It's theft. But I don't want to incur the wrath of they federal armed people. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to go to jail. So I pay them, but I be mad. I be disgruntled. But I sure be putting submit on that button. Ain't that funny how that button is submit too? Submit. It sure is. It sure says submit, don't it? And you do, and I do too. But that don't change the fact that taxation, my friends, I still maintain is theft. If you disagree with what I'm saying, hit me up. Hit me in the comments. Explain how somebody taking your money against your will is not theft. Oh, because it's the government. Half of y'all out there don't like the current government. And next government we get, half of y'all ain't going to like that one. So you're not consenting to that, are you? Now, I want to make a distinction. I think that some taxes could be possibly necessary, like local taxes here. I want the roads here to be as good as possible. I want to have some ambulances and schools. We pay some taxes, and we pay those willingly because I understand it take money to make money. If you want to have stuff, you got to pay for it. I get that. But what I don't want is all of the extraneous stuff that government seems to do without really asking anybody. This current Iran war that we're in, they didn't even bother to try to propagandize us on this one. They just did it. They just been doing stuff. And honestly, that's the way all government operates. They just do what they want to do. And that's why it's not cool for them to take your money against your will, because they're not even using it half the time the way you would use it. If you could give it to be used, you would probably use it in a different way. So they don't even use it responsibly. Y'all remember Doge? And they put that on TV, by the way, to get us thinking, oh, they doing a good job. They finding the low hanging fruit that they don't mind divulging. They ain't telling y'all the real stuff. I feel like there's way more, like my man Stephen Sanders was talking about last week. I think there's way more stuff that they not divulging that they spend money on. Of course, they know if they do divulge it, you'll be upset. And then you really might start thinking, wait a minute, hold up. I didn't actually consent for you to have that money. I didn't actually sign anything anywhere. And if I did, like I said, I was probably a minor and incapable of giving consent. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not really a moot point because it really gets down to who owns you. This is not academic. Some people say, oh man, that's all theoretical and stuff. Yeah, I agree theoretically, but is it theoretically? This is life and death stuff. It's life and death stuff right now for certain people on the ground in Iran. It's life and death stuff for other governments that we have blown up and overthrown and regime changed. It's life and death for the people of these countries we put sanctions on. And I will say, by the way, that I think the Grace Commission, I've heard of there's a deal called the Grace Commission. And if I remember correctly, Ronald Reagan commissioned that study. And they basically studied tax receipts, how much tax money is collected and where does it go. And what they discovered was, I think the signature line, I'm going by memory here, but the signature line from the Grace Commission was something like not 1 red cent or not 1 thin dime or something of your tax money goes to support the day-to-day operations of the country. So right there, this is what we're talking about. This is the crux of the problem. This is the problem itself. You taking tax money from people that didn't necessarily consent to it, certainly didn't consent to it. I didn't. And you're using it for stuff that we don't even know, have any idea to have any oversight over, or to be able to in any way tell what you're using it for. And then when we do see them using money, you're like, hold on, I don't want to, I didn't say yeah on that. Why are you over there doing that? It's too late now. They're using your tax money for it. And honestly, we're so far out of control now in the government. From what I understand, tax receipts wouldn't even pay the interest on the debt that we owe. You know what I'm saying? So taxation, really, when you get down to it, my theory is that taxation is just to keep you poor. It's just for that. In fact, they say if you want to discourage people from doing something, you put a tax on it. They don't want you to smoke, so they put a heavy tax on cigarettes. They don't want you to drink alcohol. They put a heavy tax on alcohol. They don't want you to drive cars. They put a heavy tax on gas. A big chunk of the gas price is made up of taxes. That's why California has the highest gas prices in the country, or almost the highest every year, because they tax it, because they don't want you driving, because they have smog and all that they think is caused by driving. These people, when you get down to it, don't believe the things that you and I do. They want to keep us in a subservient position, as far as I can tell. And that's not some kind of, these aren't the ravings of a lunatic. Go look at the World Economic Forum and listen to some of their speeches. The stuff they talk about at Davos in the World Economic Forum, they talk about not 15-minute cities, so you don't have to drive. You don't get to eat meat. You get rations on meat because it's supposedly bad for the planet. Well, they're doing all this with your tax money. You know what I'm saying? These people are living off our tax money, making all this stuff happen that none of us would agree with if we knew it was going on. I mean, I wouldn't agree with it if I knew what was going on. The stuff that I do know, because I read quite a bit, the stuff that I am aware of, I'm 100%, 150% opposed to most of it. So that's why it's important. It's not an academic issue. When you tax people, that's theft, because they didn't consent, and you're using their money. 9 times out of 10 is something that nobody consents to. This war is deeply unpopular. They didn't even, like I said, they didn't even bother to propagandize us about this war. They didn't even bother to have a terrorist attack and say, well, we got to get them because they attacked us, you know. Yeah. So man. Now, let me say, I want to close with this. I probably should have opened with it too, but I'm going to reiterate. I don't advise you not to pay your taxes. In fact, I advise you to get the best tax person you can and pay all the taxes they say you owe quickly, on time. Why? Because I don't want you out there to get a knock on the door, and then the door gets blown off the hinges and some people coming in and you don't even know what's going on, thinking it's a mistake, and they talking about taxes. You owe us some back taxes. You owed us 25 cents back 20 years ago. Now with the penalties and interest, that's $125 million. What? 25 cents? No, you laughing. I have seen stories like that. People that, old lady or something, can't remember the specifics of it, but it was an older person who mispaid like 25 cents under, and they took their house or something. You know what I'm saying? On some taxes. See, that's nonsense. That's bullcorn. But that's what I'm talking about. That's why I say pay your taxes, but just be aware of the concept of libertarianism, the libertarian concept that may not be morally permissible for them to just take your money. All taxation is theft. That is the libertarian position. I stick by it. My name is Robert Jenkins, and I approve of this message. I also approve of y'all paying y'all taxes because, like I said, I paid my taxes several days ago. I want them to know, if anybody from the IRS see this, y'all already sent me my receipt and said my taxes were straight. So thank you. Not really thank you, but thank you for not kicking in my door. I'm joking, sort of, but not really. You got to laugh about it or you might cry. You know what I'm saying? Hey, y'all, this is Robert Jenkins. I ain't going to bend y'all's ear too much, but thank y'all for tuning in to episode 134 of the Focus LBK show. We just talked about how all taxation is theft. Peace.